Sometimes here's the biggest thing is we're guided to what we want. And the signs that lead us to where we want, like if we follow them, it's the fastest path to get there. We avoid unnecessary pain and suffering. It's the best path. But sometimes it's so noisy in the world out there that we can't differentiate signal, which are the signs, from noise.
Yeah.
But people do meditation. But people do silent retreats. That's why you go in a place to where, where we live in, there's acres and acres. I can't even see my neighbors. So there's not a lot of noise.
Welcome to Just Happen. My name is Emilio, and I wanted to start off today with a question. Did you know that every single one of us came equipped in this lifetime with unique spiritual gifts, and our job is to identify, activate, and use them to serve humanity in the best way possible? It's very fascinating because today we sat down with someone who has been globally referred to as the Spiritual Activator. But for the past 10 years, he's been working underground, away from the public eye and much attention. And recently, he has sprouted up from nowhere. He has taken the TikTok, the Instagram, the social media world by storm by sharing wisdom and knowledge, sacred traditions about how to unblock our energy, our trapped energy, and activate our spiritual gifts. I'm talking about none other than Oliver Niño. And he says that when a CEO who's selling billions faces challenges and feels stuck, he gets the call to find the energy blockages and remove them. When a celebrity is going through a meltdown because of a breakup and can't seem to attract the right kind of man, he gets the call to find the energetic cause and address it. And it's fascinating as well because for many years, he was a successful online entrepreneur, which he still is, but away from this energetic realm. And out of the blue, you may want to call it synchronicity, a psychic came up to him and said, "I see something very special inside of you. You need to go to Sedona." So he follows her advice. He goes to Sedona and he has this spiritual awakening in an energetic vortex that is the land of Sedona. And he starts getting downloads, messages, images of sacred geometry. And he understood that everything at the root cause is energetic. And if we want to change matter, if we want to change the physical world, we have to change the energy and vibration first. And before you know it, Oliver started being able to access things that he had never been able to do before. He started seeing people's energy fields. He started being able to know things before they even happened. He started being able to see the negative energy trapped in people's organs, energy field, and aura. And he started being able to learn how to house energy in sacred geometry figures and create energy fields around his body. And these are all things that we all innately have the capacity to do. And this is the new human that is being formed right now. And there are certain pioneers and teachers that are getting this wisdom and knowledge and being able to transmit that to the new species that is arising, the new consciousness. So I am blessed. I am grateful to have had the chance to connect with Oliver and share this wisdom with you. Oliver has performed over 20,000 plus healing sessions, and he's trained over 5,000 people from 50 countries in his energy healing methodology called Geo Love Healing. If you're ready to master your energy, unlock your spiritual gifts, and become the healer that you know that you are, this is the episode for you. And if you get one thing from this episode, it's the understanding that everything is energy. And by changing and shifting the energy within ourselves and around us, our physical reality will change, and you'll be taken on some wild rides in that process. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If something resonated in whatever Oliver had to say, comment below. Let us know what you got out of this. Subscribe to this channel because we'll have so many more conversations with pioneers in the new consciousness. And like this video to help it get shown to more people. Wishing you guys much love and enjoy this mind-blowing and heart-opening episode with Oliver Niño, the Spiritual Activator. Oliver Niño, welcome to the podcast, brother. What are you most excited about right now in your life?
Oh man, Loaded question. Yeah, I mean, for us, it's like looking back in the last, like, gosh, almost 20 years of me doing this. I don't know the version that I'm going to grow into in a week, in a month, in a year. Because my wife and I were very growth oriented, right? So if I look back in the last even 2 to 3 months, I'm like, wow, like where we are now, it's radically different from who we were. So for me, I'm always excited about the version of myself that I get to meet, and the lessons that I get to grow through. And most importantly for me, it's like, it's the people that I get to share my message with. It's always been a goal of like, how can I get people out of suffering and pain faster, and how can I do it in a more massive and global scale? So for me, that's always running in my mind. It's what keeps me up at night. It's just like, yeah, hey, we can just raise the consciousness of the entire planet and wrap it with love and higher consciousness. That's the mission, and that's what I'm always thinking about. And for me, what I'm excited about is those two things: what version of myself I'm going to meet, and the people that whose lives I'm going to be able to have the privilege of impacting.
And I've heard you talk a lot about being, divinely guided in this path. And you mentioned that you've been in this journey for almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been until the last 5 years where you decided to come out of the shadows. And one of those inflection points, I mean, before that, you were a very successful internet entrepreneur. You had your businesses, you had the financial stability. But something activated in you. And I think the inflection point, speaking about getting this opportunity to raise consciousness, from what I perceive, or what I've listened, or what I feel, is that I think the birth of your children was an inflection point for you to get out there and start healing yourself in the world on an even wider scale. So I'd love to start there, maybe walk us through that process of why you think it's so important for your generation to be able to directly influence and impact and teach the younger generations, the new children that are coming into the world.
Yeah, I mean, I believe everybody's got a why that's going to drive them, right? And it's very unpredictable for some, because it's hard to see for face value. So for me, like, I've been through a lot of dark moments and pain and suffering. And I'm used to handling it because my mom, has a huge heart and grew up, and she would be, she had 9 siblings, and out of the 9, whenever there's any problems or any issues, she was the one that would bring everybody together, right? So she had this identity of, I'm going to take care of everybody, give the shirt off my back, and I can handle a lot. So growing up with that as a role model, I took that on. So for me, I've got a huge and a huge pain tolerance, right? So there's times to where it doesn't matter if I break, I'll keep going. But what changed everything was, having children, realizing that I will do it for them. I'll do things for them that I wouldn't do for me, because it's a brand new soul coming into earth, right? And for me, there was something about, I remember when my wife was pregnant, and I was hiding, and I was like, I don't know if I want to be known as a spiritual activator, as a healer. I've got a well-established business, and it has nothing to do with spirituality. So if I come out of, of the spiritual closet, as a spiritual activator, I might lose that part of my livelihood, my business. That's took me a while to build. And I remember being, having that moment of like, you know what, this, after working with so many people and seeing that, so a lot of the people that we work with are their parents, and they're, and they're further along in life, and some of their biggest pain is that their kids are in pain, right? And that they were a monumental part of that, because when you're growing up and you're a parent, you're the entire kid's environment. You're it, right? Yeah. So and people don't know that, hey, yeah, you can impact them negatively, but as a role model, you can also impact them positively with what you choose to do moving forward. So for me, knowing the pattern of people's deepest pain, which is, regret of how they impacted their kids in childhood. I was like, I've got this fresh opportunity, a brand new soul coming in here. And do I really want to be hiding, and not shining my full light when my son is born? Or do I want to be an example of what's possible, to be pure potency and for him to not have and live through unnecessary, programming and trauma and things that he has to shift through. So I did it for that. And that pushed me over my comfort zone, beyond my comfort zone. I walked away from businesses that would have had me set for life, walked away from that, kind of burned the bridges in a way, and being like, I'm done with that, because it makes money, but it's not fulfilling to my soul. It's not my soul's calling. It's not my purpose. And I'm going to do this one thing that I know will make an impact and I can be proud of. Right. So for me, that was the biggest thing. And I also knew the fact that my mission was, yes, the younger generation, it's where it's at, because they're going to become the future leaders of tomorrow. They're going to become parents, and they're going to be the ones that's going to be influencing, the world ahead of us. So in order to change the world in the future, you got to change the kids. And a lot of times, in order to change the kids, you got to change the predominant environment, which is their parents, right? What they're exposed to and all that stuff. So for me, yeah, that was a big thing. Is we were like, we'll shift the parents, because they're going to be they're the environment of the kids. And eventually, when we can, we'll find platforms so we can directly talk to the kids and educate them and share with them what we know and raise their consciousness. So it's kind of a two-pronged approach. But yes, for me, it's the future of our world really does rely on the younger generation, because they're the ones that are gonna, really, they can change the cycle, break patterns, create new paradigms, and really create a new way of living and being for the collective.
And it's interesting you said that, because as I look at our generation, I start, noticing that what we lack is sometimes role models. And when I see you, like you're on TikTok, like you're literally moving to the platforms where these younger generations are, and giving them that example of what does it mean to be activated spiritually. I wanted to ask you, just out of curiosity, what has been one of the most monumental lessons that you've had in fatherhood, and specifically most recently?
It's interesting. A lot of it is it is a deeper calling to further heal the wounded parts of ourselves. Because a lot of times when I look at children, they've been the biggest teachers in my life and in the lives of people that I get to serve, because they bring forth sometimes parts of you that are unhealed, that are wounded, that we'd rather shove under the rug, or that we don't want to associate with, right? And for me, I realized that let's say I had a lot of resentment and healing to do with my dad, right? And a lot of times my kids will mirror a lot of things that are unhealed, and I'd have to face it. And in order to be a better parent, I'd have to go within and be like, wow, I've got to really address that, right? I've got to be able to, love all of me, because the thing with kids is that I feel like they learn more from embodiment. Same thing with people that are looking for role models. They learn more from the embodiment of the frequency and the energy more than anything else. They will ignore what you say and pay attention more to not so much even what you do, but how you show yourself and what frequency you vibrate on. So for me, that's what I noticed. Children are
way more very sensitive.
Way intuitive, way more intuitive, and they're way gifted too, because they don't have the programming, the life trauma, and the events it hasn't occurred. And a lot of times that's good to I see a world where things that are avoidable, unnecessary, don't have to show up, but they haven't been disconnected from who they are, so they do bring this unique gift of essence and presence and appreciation for the simple things, and unique perspectives and honesty, and just them being in their full selves earlier on. And it's a gift, because when you see that, you're like, wow, life can be simple. It's simple when you're operating in your unique nature, and the things that, that make you happy don't have to be complicated. So in a way, it's a reminder. And for me, the most profound lesson is just like realizing, like, yes, I'm a father, but my son's also here to teach me and give me lessons, and I'm here to listen as well, and learn. So for me, that was the biggest shift, is like, yes, I'm here to provide the love, the environment, the safety, the nurturing, the growing, the evolving, and the things that are needed in the humanistic sense of things. But in other realms, in others, when it comes to spiritual stuff and energetic and just lessons, I'm here to listen and learn, because you come here with those gifts.
Yes. And I've heard, people say that sometimes our children actually choose us in order to help us evolve into the next highest level of ourselves, or maybe even going deeper down the rabbit. Exactly. Yeah. We choose them as well. Yeah. And we all come in as a soul group. Something that I've realized. I believe
that's to where my dad's like, I know I'm going to struggle through these lessons in life, and I need you to be my wake up call in case I get lost in this world, to teach me the lessons that I would have a hard time learning, to show me who I am by you shining your light. I remember who I am, right? And it's uncomfortable sometimes, because because we get so disconnected from who we are that our wake up call sometimes isn't fun. It's not something that's like, wow, ooh, that's a fun wake up call, because sometimes wake up calls are rock bottom, and you lose everything and you're in pain. But I feel that that's happening for us at times, right? To bring us back to who we are and to snap us out of the matrix that we live in. So yeah, for sure, I believe that we choose our kids, or our kids choose us, and there are lessons that we both learn from each other that help us and the collective as well. So I fully believe that.
I love that. And I was really feeling into, and I would love to go in the direction of helping people activate those spiritual gifts that you talk about. But even before that, I think going into the last 20 years, speaking of rock bottoms, like what in your life, when you think of those rock bottoms that truly, started this path of becoming the spiritual activator, what were some of the things that you'd like to share around, those deep moments of healing and transformation?
Yeah, and there are plenty of rock bottom moments. Every single one of them, looking back, whenever there's a rock bottom, there's this, it's also a skyrocket moment afterwards if you choose to learn the lesson. So for me, I've gone through a lot of different things, like
if you choose to learn the lesson.
If you choose to learn the lesson, that's a big one. And those lessons are simple when you look at them, harder to implement, because it requires it requires you going all in at times, right? So yeah, I've gone through the painful stuff. I've gone through failed businesses, bankruptcy, divorce, gone through like people deeply hurting me who I've trusted, business partners, stealing portions of the business. And looking back, a lot of the times I look back at that, and at the beginning, I'm angry. Like, why does this happen? Like, why are they causing pain in my life? And then I realized that, a lot of what I'm experiencing, two things are happening. One, it prepared me for doing what I'm doing now and what I'm about to do. And I think, God, higher power, universe, whatever people believe in, for the dark times, because it allows me perspective and empathy for people who are going through it. And because I've been there, when I see people who are going through it, the darkness doesn't scare me. I've been through it plenty, to where I will stand in the fire and the darkness with people and pull them out. And most other people will give up because they can't stand it. But since I've been there, I know what it's like to be in that pain. So I stand there longer to pull people out of it. Right. So the biggest gift it's given me is that strength to go in places where people that don't, and pull them out.
And I guess also that compassion, being able to hold space for someone. Recently I've had to witness some of the people I love the most go through some very dark moments, and being there, receiving as an empath, someone that is very sensitive to energy and feels a lot. I've had to go through those moments, and sometimes we don't really know what is the best way of holding space for people? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, because I see it with my son as well and people who I love. And I realize that, like, holding space for people, it may be painful in the moment, but long term, it will set them free if they choose to take action and do it and do what's divinely guided for them, right? So for me, I look at it as like, yes, would I rather be comfortable now and keep them in a lifelong pattern that will cause them pain and suffering and keep them in that rat race, or do I step up now and do what's uncomfortable, and they have a chance to break free from that, and not have to deal with it, right? They have a chance at freedom. So for me, it's tough, but I know it's a long-term game. I know it is. The way I look at it is, I can't rush a flower to bloom. I can't do that at all. If I do, it will die, right? But what I can do is I can put it in the right environment, sunlight, like, the nutrients, the water, and I can't predict when it's going to bloom, but in time it will, right? So I control what I can control, and I surrender the rest, because we just don't know, the time frame. And a lot of times people are in pain because they're looking at things from a shorter amount of time. But if they just expanded the time frame and looked at it from a longer perspective, they're going to realize that what they thought was painful and what they thought was just like, wow, I shouldn't experience this, is really exactly what they asked for. That's fueling them and driving them to the life that they want, if they look at it on a larger time frame and larger context. So I look at life like that, of like, I may never know what it is, but if somebody came to save me during my darkest moments and then allow me that space, that time to heal and to grow, then I wouldn't be where I am now. So I don't want to also rob people of that opportunity for massive growth, and might be everything that they actually asked for. But in that moment, they just don't know that that's what it's for.
Yeah. So during an energy healing that you had almost more than 20 years ago, a guy told you had abundance blockages. And he did some sort of work on you. And then after that, you made more money in a day than you had in a year.
Yeah.
And this really goes to the concept, the notion that when you change energy, you change matter instantaneously. So we've talked a lot about that on the show. And I wanted just to go deeper on that with you about how you've gotten to that realization that working with energy and not trying to do things from a matter to matter perspective, like, oh, let me work harder to get this. Let me, send more emails. Let me do this and that. But when you change your frequency, your energy, things around you start shifting almost sometimes instantaneously. You said that you met your soulmate in 4 days. So like really going deep into that, what happens when we change energy? Yeah,
I mean, the matter to matter works, but it's just too slow for my taste. It's too slow. It really is. And the way I look at it is like, one of the skills that people miss really is, it's two-part. You got to get good at channeling that frequency, or tapping into it. But a lot of people get lost because they think that's the way to go, and they escape there, and they miss out on the second part, is you've got to ground it, that energy here in the physical realm. Because it's fun being tapped into higher level energy. We want to experience that, right? We think it's separate from us. That's where we came from. That's who we are. That's nothing new. That's who we are at the core. The goal is to remember that, be able to tap into that. But again, we're in this, this 3D reality, human world, where we got to get that. And the skill that people is missing is like grounding that. And when you're able to ground energy here in the here and now, thoughts become things really, really quickly. So I understand energy in a very specific way. I know that our thoughts, right, whether you're like, I'm good enough, or they're out to hurt me, our thoughts produce energy. And I know those thoughts drive the emotions, whether you're like, I'm amazing, I'm love, it makes you feel good, it makes you feel, wanted, it makes you feel, grateful. Or whether you're like, I'm not good enough, they're out to hurt me, it makes you feel fear, inadequacy, it makes you feel like, sometimes like all these emotions that really are vexatious to your soul. And then I know that those emotions produce energy as well. And when the thoughts and emotions are intense, they drive action, and action can be inaction as well. But
Mm.
whatever you choose also has an energetic output. So if you're like, shoot, the world isn't safe, I'm going to shrink and hide and be invisible, not doing anything produces that energy as well. And if you're like, wow, I'm accepted, I'm loved, I am going to shine my light and be seen and speak my truth and own my essence, that in itself also produces energy.
Mm.
And the trifecta of that, of the energy produced by the mind, by the emotions and decisions, when you combine all that, I believe that it comprises your dominant vibration, or vibration or frequency, and then that is what dictates your reality, because that's, like, in my mind, that's like a channel that you're tuned into on TV. If you're tuned into a horror, Halloween channel, then everything that you see, you hear, and everything that they say is designed to make you feel emotions that are fearful, right? That are in that tone. So if you're expecting laughter and comedy and love and joy from that channel, you're going against the stream. Like, it's easier to change the channel than expect something from a channel where that's not even, it doesn't even exist.
Just
right?
A quick mystical anecdote that I wanted to share with you based on that is that, I talk to a lot of people that can astral project. They do it very frequently. And one of the people that I was talking to, they told me that in the beginning, when they started activating that, they would get really scared. They would go into fear mode. So everything in the astral realm was dark.
Exactly.
Like entities, like dark entities. And she was telling me how fearful she was. And it was because she was generating that emotion that she was immediately put into that realm. And that's kind of how it is, like in this 3D physical reality too. When we're operating off gratitude, love, joy, the outer world matches that. It's inner world, outer world.
And the things in the lower vibration simply don't exist in higher vibrations. It just doesn't. Like if you think about a room that's dark, it's only dark till light turns on, and then it doesn't exist anymore, right? So the way I look at it is the best protection from things that you're scared of is a higher vibration. And when you are, your gifts are active, one of the worst things you can do is be in a vibration of fear, because all of a sudden everything in that vibration finds you, attaches to you. And it doesn't even have to be energy and entities. It can be real life people who resonate on that frequency, who bring problems, and other people that create more problems because they exist solely on that vibration. So for me, it is one of the most detrimental things people do, but they're unaware of it because they try to fix things on a matter basis, like you were mentioning. And what it does is you're just pouring more of your precious energy and attention into creating and fueling the reality which you don't even want to exist in, right? So a lot of the times I refer to it as an illusion. When you feed the illusion, it lasts longer. And the best way to do it and to approach it is just to not buy into it, right? And when you do, it changes. And I've seen it over and over again from multiple experiences from myself and other people. But we live in a reality to where vibration is the game. That's the game we're here to master, because especially if let's say I'm working with somebody and they have a blockage in their heart, right? That blockage in that heart could be a culmination of 200 limiting beliefs, 40 different, traumatic experiences, so on and so forth.
Generational.
So by removing that, people can experience the benefit of that not being in their system versus working on it from a matter to matter perspective, to where how long that takes. Right. And some of these limiting beliefs and experiences we're not even aware of. We do not consciously know what they are or remember them. So how can we even work on them from a logical perspective? We can't. We miss out on a lot of things. But what I can bank on is all of them produce energy. And energy is energy. Remove that. People can move forward leaps and bounds without even knowing what it was that they shifted. If they know what it was, it's a bonus, but you don't need to know, what affected you at 4 years old to be able to move forward in life. Because the thing that's affecting you now is the energy that it left behind that affects your vibration. And if you change that, you change the pattern forever, right? So that's the way I look at it. Is it's more efficient, right? And being an entrepreneur in fast life, efficiency is the game. Like I want to get the most bang, for my actions. So I'm going to choose the one thing that changes everything rather than doing the 10,000 things that don't move the needle.
And I don't want to discredit any other like healing modalities out there. I'm no one to judge what works for certain people, but I've heard you say that your techniques and teachings have never been taught before. They're much more powerful and useful than any other techniques out there. The energy that you're using, that you're working with. I wanted just to go a little bit more in depth on that, of like, what does your modality look like for people, that, introducing people to what you're doing, what you're seeing, what you're feeling when you're working with different people, and how you're unblocking these energies to allow people to activate their gifts.
Right. First of all, I actually believe in every modality that exists. I look at it as people are different. We resonate with different things, right? And I've got a lot of people, I've been blessed to teach a lot of people and certify them that have come from different modalities, and they reach certain people at certain phases in their lives.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, like I'm the big believer that, hey, I may be the one to shift somebody, but sometimes I may be the one to lead them to someone that will make the difference in their lives, because I'm not that person that will do it, but somebody else will. Or I turn them off and they go to somebody else, and because I turn them off, that somebody else will shift them. So I'm a big believer, one, in interconnectedness. We're all connected. And sometimes it's not one person that drives the result home. It's a combination of different people. And for example, when I first started out, energy was not the thing that moved the needle for me, right? It was limiting beliefs. It was going hardcore into psychology and emotions and all those different things. And then it got me to where I got, and then I couldn't go any further, and energy took me the rest of the way. Yeah. Right. And even now, like, I know that yes, energy can get me there. Right. But it got me to making more in a day than I did an entire year. And I lost it in 2 months because my mind and my emotions weren't aligned. Right. So even though energy got me there, that created an opportunity for me to be like, there's something at play here. I can experience the life that I want fast. But if I don't align these two, I'm going to counter manifest it, because these two also create energy and affects my vibration. So I look at things more from a holistic perspective. And for me, when people have come here that have done other modalities, the things that really makes it different is, one, we don't use our own human energy to do it. A lot of healers do. Like, that's why a lot of body workers and healers are like, I'm drained, I'm affected, like, they burn out. They have to take big breaks, is because when they're doing any kind of healing, they're using their own human battery, their energy to do it, which works, but we're limited with what we can do, what we can produce from our human state. So for me, I'm a big believer of being a vessel and channeling higher level energy. But the thing is, there's only so much you can handle typically, because we're like an outlet. If you're 110 volts and you try to channel 3 million volts of energy, you're going to short circuit real quick, right? So for me, the magic sauce is sacred geometry. Yeah. Because it's allowed me to house more energy, potently magnify it, amplify it, right? And also access higher levels of consciousness and channel higher levels of potent energy that I normally wouldn't be able to do with just my human body. And so sacred geometry has been key. And I look at it as, it's nothing that's, I don't believe it's my original information. I believe that it's existed in the past, in the Akashic realm, and a lot of people from all over the world who have done the work and who pass on knowledge and information through initiation or different methods that it has been known, but I believe I haven't heard it taught in a mass market way where I'm trying to bring it so that it brings awareness to everybody. You don't have to, live here and do this and do that to have it. But then again, it's like, it is a balance, because I know the responsibility I have with sacred
Yeah.
information, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot that I say, like, that's online, but it's a lot that I don't say, because a lot of sacred information as well is vibration based,
Yeah.
right? Just because you hear something, and it appeases your mind, doesn't mean it's good for you, because sacred information comes with a lot of frequency and a lot of shifting as well. So when you hear it, it hits you like a really, really powerful crystal at times, to where it will cause a purge. It will cause you to shift your life. And if you're not ready, prepared for it, it can be negligent to just share just because I want to share, and people want to learn. So a lot of the things that I've learned, they only unlock at certain vibrations once I've done the work. And so I do understand also that tough balance of like, yes, I know you want to learn, but some things, you can't learn just because you want to learn from, and you appease your mind. Some things becomes available to you at full force based on the work that you do and the vibration you've unlocked.
Yeah.
In my experience.
And I've found that too, like, especially in the content space, where sometimes in 1 minute that you get on a TikTok video or an Instagram reel,
Right.
like, you don't have that much, space to
Yep.
unravel these complex concepts. And then that's where podcasts come in.
Yeah, I can go deeper. That's the thing with TikTok, is like, you've got to cram in potency in a way where people will grasp it, and it's not too far out of reach. And at the same time, like, appealing to people who are also out there and who know these concepts, but you only have about 60 seconds. So there's only so much you can say.
Yeah.
That's why I love these platforms, because I can really go deep, and you can go deep, and we can just jam in these concepts and be like, oh, that's what you meant, right?
And speaking about sacred geometry, I was just watching the other day a new series on Gaia I think it's called Sacred Geometry.
Yeah.
And it was incredible because I'm forgetting his name, but he was teaching people how to create protection fields, shields with sacred geometry, just by visualizing it in our mind. What would you like to say about that? How can we use sacred geometry to protect ourselves, to draw in different things and unlock any spiritual powers that we may have?
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, okay, so I look at sacred geometry as one of the things it can do is it can house energy, right? It can house energy, and keep it potently for longer periods of time. So when you wanting to use protection, I mean, I'm a big fan of layering, right? So it's like, for example, when I'm teaching people how to do shields, it's, and I can walk you through it if you want, and as an exercise. So that's
let's do it. I love bringing in the practical to the show.
Yeah. So close your eyes, right? And I always like starting with an intention. God, higher power, universe, whatever you believe in. It's just like help in this moment for you to discover the best sacred geometry and light, that will protect you from all toxic, fear-based, negative, lower level energy that's not for the highest good for you to experience, right? So just the intention of like you be guided, and we'll start off with color, right? We're gonna play around with different colors, and I want you to use a color, right? You're gonna tell me at the end of it which color had the most impact to you, right? So let's start off with white. So imagine white coming down from the sky and filling, your entire body up, coming through your crown and just filling your entire body up with white, right? And just let it kind of notice what it is. You can see it, you can hear the color, you can feel the color, or you can just intend for it to happen, knowing that intentions will make it happen at the highest levels too, right? So try white. Then when you're done, try purple, like powerful divine purple light coming down from the heavens, just like through the crown and filling you up, and just kind of see how it feels, see what's different, see what's in your mind more powerful. Okay, and when you're done with that, try gold, see what gold does for you, right? And the last one is a wild card. Whatever first color comes, even if you don't think it's the one, start whatever random color that first intuitively comes to you and try filling yourself up with that and just see the difference. See what it does for you, how you feel with it. And when you're done, just, let me know which color resonated with you.
I felt gold really strongly. In the wild card, I brought in the yellow, which expanded the energy a little bit even more. So yeah, either the gold or the yellow, those two were powerful.
So try this for a second. Try doing the gold and the yellow, but instead of it being light, try the liquid format. Imagine it coming down from the sky, but it's like in almost like a liquid form, right? Filling your entire body up, and just kind of notice the difference of how your body responds to light or liquid as far as the medium of energy. Then let me know the difference when you have it.
Yeah, it's gonna sound very obvious, but I felt the liquid much like more denser in my body, like almost like it was flowing through each center, each energy center. Like I just kind of imagined it with the spiral.
There you go. And then let's link it together, because now you have, and I'm going to talk about layering, afterwards, but let's link it together. So let's use your gold, right? And you can use liquid or light, whatever you prefer. And let's try a sphere for now. Imagine you're inside a sphere, right? Circle. And it can be as big or as small as you want, And imagine once you're inside of it, filling it up with gold. The whole thing up with gold. And just kind of pay attention to how you feel. And when you've kind of got that, kind of shift gears and try a pyramid next, right? Put yourself inside of a pyramid, can be big or small, and imagine it being filled up with gold as well, right? You kind of like pay attention to like the nuances, the kind of subtle differences, or maybe they're not as subtle, but just kind of tune into that. And when you're done, you can even try a kind of like a spiral. You're in a vortex, a tornado. You're inside of it, right? The calm place, and it's just all around you, and it's also gold. And when you're done, I mean, you can even do a wild card, right? There's a lot of different things out there, whether it's mandalas or diamond shapes, whatever first comes, try that out, like intuitively, and just see what comes up for you. Then when you're done, just, gently come back and share with me what was your experience with each, and which one was, you resonated with the most as far as protection.
It's funny because the past few weeks, I've really been focused on creating protection around myself. Whether that be, if it was people in my life that I felt maybe were not giving off the best energy, or I've been in a lot of mass crowds, going to soccer games when you're surrounded by a lot of people, and I've been visualizing the pyramid a lot. And even going deeper into the preparation for this, I was like, you talk a lot about that, and it was just very synchronistic. So I was really keen on the pyramid in the recent days. The spiral, I felt kind of my body even start following the motion. Feeling myself like going in that spiral. And then the wild card, I created this sort of torus field, which is the for people that are tuning in, the Taurus is like where your energy comes up through your crown, connects, and then all of a sudden connects in your sacral, the first chakra. And it's kind of like the shape of an apple. But yeah, it was really cool. Thank you for that.
And here's a next level to that is you can actually, I'm a big believer in layering. So for example, like intention in itself, it works beautifully. Like, and for me, example, like prayer is a powerful form of intention. There's sometimes people that pray, even though, they don't believe it. And that's the only thing they do, and miracles happen. Yes, right. So intention in itself works. Light in itself works standalone. Sacred geometry in itself works. Right. And I look at light as more of like a medium of like, if you are trying to tap into higher level power or divine healing consciousness coming from far, light is the vehicle where it travels from. Same as sound, it can produce the same thing. So you're mixing intention, light as the medium, from that energy to travel from higher dimensions to you, and the sacred geometry as a way to house it potently and to keep it living, right? So when you layer all three, it has a very powerful effect, but you can go further with layering. So the last one I want to walk you through is do the exact same thing, but this time you can even imagine multiple pyramids, more than one pyramid. Like some people, when they layer, they're like, I'm in a pyramid, and there's a sphere, and outside of it, there's a spiral. So I'll let you go wild with how many you want to layer and what you want to layer with, but try layering sacred geometry as much as you feel called to, and filling them up with gold and yellow and see what happens. And do it until you feel like it's a Fort Knox and it's impenetrable. There you go.
Here's what I saw. I just needed to share with people, and share with you. I did the pyramid, and around that the sphere, and I just visualized the pyramid just circulating 360 like super rapidly, and then as that was happening, the sphere was getting wider and wider. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, so I would use that when you're going into crowds, because sometimes the level of the external stimuli and how it affects you will determine how crazy you go with shields. If it's if it's something that normally affects you, sure, you can go lighter. If it's crowds or you're meeting with somebody who it typically triggers you and throws you off and affects your energy, then you do more in certain situations than you normally would. And yeah, it comes a point in time to where, like, when I am serving on stage or just like I'm doing the work, I don't need shields, because I'm in a vibration to where, like, the light within me that's flowing through me is more powerful than the darkness around me, that I'm not affected at all. I become the force, instead of people going in and being like, oh shoot, I'm in this crowded mall and I feel everybody else, which I would feel if I was in low vibration. I would totally feel that today. But if I'm tuning in the higher one and I'm channeling it and I'm in a very different vibration, it's a very different effect. I'm walking there knowing in that store, I am bringing light and affecting every single person that I meet. Therefore, I don't need shields. They probably do if they wanted to, but I don't, because I become that dominant force. So that's the way I view it, is like shields. I use them when I'm not in a high vibration. When I'm in a high vibration, that is my shield.
It is the shield. Yeah, I was gonna say that, and one of the quotes that I wrote, that I heard you say, is your vibration is your protection.
Yep, 100%. And I'm not immune to it. Like, let's say my wife's doing a workshop and I'm not serving at all, and we have people that are, because we're in sacred land, right? So it amplifies everything. There's vortex points. So when people purge, they purge hard. And if I am not serving and I'm just doing my daily thing, I'll be debilitated. I'll feel sick, feel loss of energy. I'll feel the roller coaster. I'm with them as they're going through it. And the fastest way out of it is me serving. I get on that stage, it all goes away, because I go in a vibration to where, in the vibration that I'm in, it can handle all that more and transmute it without me having to feel it at the deepest level. So it happens. And a lot of it is just knowing yourself well enough to know what's going to affect you and what's going to get you out of it. Because different things work for different people. And a lot of it is you got to find the one that works for you. What works for me might not work for you. It might be slightly a color different, or a complete sacred geometry shape, in itself that works for you. It doesn't work for me. So that's why I encourage people of like, hey, whatever I'm saying, let it be a starting point, a launch pad to help you figure out what deeply resonates with you. And when you find that, that's the gold, right? And a lot of it has to do with knowing yourself so well and you becoming your own benchmark of when you're comparing, what works. It's what works for you, right? And that's the biggest thing that I tell people.
And it's what you said, the healer gets healed twice. When they're healing the other,
yes,
it comes back. And healing, I mean, healers, it is a specific spiritual gift that people have. So going, we found ourselves to it, talking about spiritual gifts. There are certain primary gifts that you've talked about. If you want to run people through, like, what are the most common ones? Maybe even get into if there's any advanced spiritual gifts that you've activated in yourself or you've seen people in your space activate that could open people's minds and print that in the field. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Wow, you've gone deep in my work. Right, your questions, like, this is probably one of the most specific interviews, and I love it. Like, that you know my work well. I'm honored. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I'll throw a bunch of basic ones and kind of tap into which advanced ones that the people here listening to this, like, it's for the best for them to know. So basic ones, and when I say basic, I mean, don't people typically think, oh, it's basic? No, it's kind of like when you have your primary gift. I call it primary gift. It's the one that for some reason you're supposed to focus on right now. Yeah. Right. And when you build the foundation of your primary gift, it builds you up energetically, so your energetic body can handle more gifts down the road. But the primary gift, and even these gifts, they have levels to it. For example, one gift is channeling. Yeah. People can channel information, channel energy, and you've seen them. I mean, you Google certain channels on YouTube. You'll see them, their voice changes, their tone changes, and they're able to deliver messages from higher realms or energy from higher realms potently.
It's amazing. Right? We've had Paul Selig, he channels the guides. Neil Donald Walsh, even he doesn't directly trans channel, but his books are channeled material. It's one of my favorite topics to get into. Like, reading, receiving channeled information is
channeled information is very shifting. Powerful. And there's there's channels that they do what I call full on channel, to where their body changes, the mannerisms,
their color of their eyes.
It's
insane.
the words that they use. Everything changes. I've seen it change the craziest things, right? And there are people that do what I call conscious channeling, right? And my wife does full channeling. It takes me a while to do it. So what's more natural for me is more of a conscious channeling, which is like when I'm doing podcasts, it's like my mouth is moving and saying things before I can think about it, right? Because I'm just like, all right, I know how this works. When you're channeling, here's the thing. A lot of channels, they have a hard time channeling at first, is because they get all this energy, it goes in their throat, they want to say something, but they judge themselves. They think, because we're taught in society, you got to think before you speak. Yeah. So they're like thinking that they have to know what it is.
Filter it through the logical mind, the left brain.
Doesn't work that way.
The analytical mind.
A lot of times for the channels, I just say the first word. Yeah. Because you let that vibration out, and when that energy is out, the way channels work is your mind is going to keep up with what you're saying. Is going to be like, what the hell is going on? That's a channel, typically, when you let it flow through. And that's a big thing, is realizing that when you're channeling, the processing is reversed. You're not thinking before you're speaking. You're speaking and then you're thinking afterwards, analyzing what you just said. So it's, once people get that and they realize that the most important thing about channeling is you just got to express it. Let the energy, that's the hardest part. Let the energy flow. And once that is open, then it is a huge jump in the ability to channel. So channeling is one of my favorite topics. I grew up in a family full of channels, and it's one that's it's a very powerful and interesting gift. Like, it's just like one of the ones that I'm like, wow, thank God we have channels in the world. Like,
Do you remember your
us.
first time channeling full on?
A lot of the times they were more conscious. It's more of like the feeling of it, because it's what's more natural for me. So a lot of the times it's like somebody will be talking, and when you're channeling, sometimes you can intentionally be like, I want to channel, and sometimes like you don't choose it. You're talking to somebody, their higher self, and then your higher self are prompting each other. Next thing you know, you're saying stuff you don't even know what you're saying, and when you're done, you didn't even think anything of it, and they're like, wow, that's so profound, and you're like, I don't even know where that came from or what I said. Because a lot of times also with channels, especially when you do more of the full-on channeling, you forget what you said shortly after, or after. You might feel the tones and the energy of the theme of it, but the channels that I met that are full-on channeling, they completely forget what it is shortly after, because they're like, it's kind of like one of the things where you have such a powerful dream and you remember it when you wake up and you're like, all right, I got this. And 5 minutes later, you're like, shoot, what was it again?
It happened to me yesterday. I was with a friend
right?
who's just learning and activating that gift within her. And then she channeled something, her eyes were closed. And then I was like, after that, I was like, remember when you said this? And like, can you explain it a bit better? And she's like, I have no idea what I just told you. And I'm like, oh shit.
Exactly. So you have things like channeling. Another one is transmuting. And it's people, it's more like a filter, right? They filter energy. So let's say you walk into a store and someone next to you feels heavy in energy. You don't even have to say anything. Your transmuters typically are getting that energy, neutralizing it. And afterwards, that person's like, wow, I feel so much better. Like, thanks for talking to me or whatever. They just feel lighter. Yeah. And depending on where you are vibrationally, you might feel energized. You might feel nothing, or what most transmuters feel is they feel everything. The person's thoughts, their emotions, their physical pain, as they're transmuting it, they're feeling all of it. So it's vibration based as well. So at certain vibrations, the pain associated with certain gifts don't exist. And at lower vibrations, it becomes all that there is, right? So transmuters do that. And then an advanced gift that people are like, oh, it's straight out of sci-fi. I mean, it happens every single time I'm doing a workshop. We've got it documented with video cameras and people that are like, oh my gosh, how is this even possible? An advanced one is weather and electronics, right? People who affect weather a lot. Yeah. Right? And I've seen it with my own eyes, people that are able to erase clouds from the sky. Yeah. There are people when we went to Europe, in Norway, I was fascinated by this. Because as much as we're in the energy field, we're also in the science field. So we have a lot of friends that are scientists that measure things that are really the most respected in the world of what they do. And secretly, they're into energy, but they don't want everybody else to know because it's going to discredit them, right? But people that are paid by football teams whenever there's a storm and they come in there and their main job is to fix the weather. Right? Because if you look at things like, government doing, have technology to manipulate the weather, they're out there, they're saying it. Like, in Canada, if you Google it, Canada hail weather modification, they're coming out saying, yes, we do this stuff to affect the weather. And it's not anymore, no longer a conspiracy. It's now in plain sight. But those technologies are modeled after people who could do them naturally, and they just backwards engineered them, right? So for me, there's weather and technology. There are people that affect technology. They walk and lights flicker, and they can do crazy things with technology and the weather.
Is that because the voltage within their energy field is so high that they're impacting and influencing electronics? Is there like an explanation behind that?
It's not so much the voltage is too high that they affect it. It's that for some reason they were gifted with that ability to affect distribution channels. I look at weather and technology as a distribution channel. Yeah. And if you can make it gloomy, people will be depressed. If the sun comes up, some people, they thrive off, they feel better with the sun. Right? With technology, you look at it, people that have gifts of technology, They can be listening to a radio, station, and the song could be negative, vibrationally in the words, and you can have 10 million people listening to it. And people who can tap into technology can send love through that medium, whether it's songs, phone, TikTok, social media. They just, for some reason, they were given that ability to tap into distribution channels that could affect the masses. So it does have a larger healing effect, right? So, and that also comes with energy as well, because I've also noticed a correlation of people that have that gift. They can also generate a lot of energy as well. So it may also be the case. But I feel like both of them are needed. Sometimes people that have a lot of energy, can't affect weather and technology, and sometimes they can. And the missing piece of it I see is that for some reason, part of their purpose work is affecting, people on a grander scale than just one-on-one or a room full of people. That's why they're given that ability.
And this may happen to a lot of people, and it's definitely happened to me, is where I say, I want to activate my gifts.
Yep.
I don't know which ones I have. I don't know where to start. I've been told healer, I've been told. And then when it comes down to it, it's like, what are the steps that we can take to start? First, identifying which gifts that we were given for some whatever divine reason, divine plan, and the steps to get there.
Yep. So here's the thing. A lot of times gifts are activated and people get into the rocking chair moment in their deathbed, not ever knowing that they have a gift, but in their entire lives, their gift has been running, right? So gifts don't rely on you knowing what it is. It's like your heart. You don't have to think or tell it to beat, it beats. For example, my mom, she, since beginning of time, since I've known it, she would have a dream and it would come true. Every single time. Right. But we grew up, in a strict Catholic background. So she's still very much adheres to it strictly, to where I'm like, Mom, you're psychic. She's like, oh, that's never happened. It's just, I'm like, my dreams never come true. And we're like, point out the example. She's like, nope, I don't know. And she has a lot of fear based on the word because of the context that it has, from her upbringing.
The word psychic, you mean?
Yeah. And she would never admit that she's psychic, although a lot of what she does is, right? So that's the thing, is that people can even, not believe they have gifts. Doesn't mean the gift doesn't run, because it runs not from our mind. It runs from our soul, is what I've seen. So a lot of times people have gifts and they never know they have gifts. When you're more intentional about it, then it brings it more to the conscious awareness, so you can actually control and have the tools to do it on demand or be more a part of it. I've also seen it to where rock bottom moments and those different, when we experience a lot of pain and our heart is involved, whenever our heart is involved, whether it's, pain or pleasure, but when we have it to where it's affecting our heart, gifts open up. I've seen it to where it's more of a divine structure to it, to where if something's about to happen, they'll require you and your gifts, and I forget who it was, but they did it. Someone said, whenever there's some natural calamity or something's going to happen, humans, we evolve and we develop things before it even happens to prepare for it, and it's all happening unconsciously, right? Or before we even know it. So sometimes there's the divine timing of before you're going to experience something, whether it's something painful or it's going to require you to stretch, or you're having a kid, or this opportunity that's come in. Your gifts all of a sudden start to activate in preparation of that, which you don't even know is going to happen. And a lot of times I've seen intention. I've had people that sign up to my workshop, and the moment they sign up for the workshop, before it even starts, because some of them are 2-3 months in advance, they start shifting and things start happening for them, because you don't realize that when you set things on an intention level of, I want to activate my gifts, that is what we call a set it and forget it manifestation. You're making that, declaration on the soul level, on a high vibration, to where it's unfolding. Whether you do any humanistic thing to back it up or not, you set it at a different vibration, therefore it unfolds,
And you might not like the trials and challenges that will come with you saying, I want to activate this gift.
Yeah, because a lot of times it comes with a purge. You purge the things that no longer are needed in your life, that are, and whether that's thoughts, emotions, trauma, people, situations, you purge them, and you release the old or the things that no longer serve or that you've outgrown to make space for the new.
Yeah.
Right. And people understand that that's a cycle. They understand that sometimes the things that you're experiencing, bringing you pain in life, are the very things that you've asked for that are needed for what's coming into your life. You don't put two and two together, but when you do, life changes and you're like, wow, like, you realize how much really the external is responding to the things that you have either set an intention at the highest levels, or that your soul, your higher self is preparing you for things that you didn't even know that's about to come, but it's coming. Right. So I look at it in a very like, things are happening for us truly when you expand the time frame of what you look at and what you judge your life by.
Huh. I love that so much, Oliver. I could talk to you for the next 5 days and I'll get tired. But yeah, no, I know you have things to do, and I wanted to just end the episode. We have a segment called the Final Trio. So they're rapid fire questions. I mean, you could really answer in any way you want. I will not cut you off. Don't worry.
Do it.
But yeah, so the first one that I wanted to ask you, actually, before that, before I forget, I know you have a new book coming out, and people that are listening will want to connect with you even further. So where would you send people, and what details can we get about your new projects?
Yeah, it is right now. The book is on pre-order. So if you all are listening to this before it's out in March. But you can pre-order it now. You just type in Spiritual Activator on Amazon, right? And it's by Hay House, a book from Hay House, Spiritual Activator. And what I attempted to do, which I think we did pretty well, is close to 20 years of learning all of the best stuff. The stuff that I actually wished, if I was given like a magic wand, is like, Oliver, you can travel back to your younger self, 10 or 20 years old, but you can't say anything. You can just hand them one thing, right? And that's the only shot that I have. I would hand them the book, hands down, because I feel like it would have sped up time for me, and I would have avoided a lot of different things, and I would it would have been a much smoother ride for sure. So I would hand him that book, and that's the intention, is like, people that I never get to hug, I never get to see, I never get to serve in person, that they have something to where it has the tools to where if I never see them again, I know that they'll know how to raise their vibration, protect their energy, clear their energy, master their energy, and really start living a life that is empowering to them. So that was the intention of the book. So you can get it in Amazon. As far as all of my projects, just social media is the best way. I post so much free content on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Just look for Spiritual Activator, and there's like a wealth of information there. People are like, dude, people charge for the stuff that you're giving away for free. And I'm like, because I know there are people that will never buy anything from me, but they still need to hear this. So I still need to be able to reach them regardless if money exchanges hands. And that's why I put so much more stuff out there in social media, because I know it's one of the things to where that momentum has to be created. And I'm taking it upon myself to just spread that information out there. So those are that's probably the best way to do it, is just follow me on social.
Yeah, I love that. And I honor you for that, brother. Thank you so much. And so the first question that we have is that magic wand question.
Yep.
If you were to be given a magic wand, and you could make one wish, one tool, one imprinting of energy to help people master their energy, what would that be?
I would have, for me, I would have probably believed much bigger, much faster, and lean on faith a lot. Like, because a lot of times, like, things would have been quicker for me had I not fought it, right? Because we get intuitive pings all the time. Like, we got feelings of like, that's not a good person, or it's not a good situation, or whatever, and we override it. we override it, and the next thing you know, we get burned, and we're like, oh shoot, I knew I shouldn't have done. I had that feeling, I should have avoided it, right? But that comes because we don't trust ourselves, or we don't trust the signs, or we don't live in that manner. We got to see it to fruition. You got to live by commitment and consistency, right? We want to see it through. So if I were to wave a magic wand, that's one of the first things that I would tell myself and would share with others, is that you can stop at the first sign of a red flag. You don't have to let it blow. You don't have to let the signs be louder and louder to where you have to hit rock bottom before it changes. It doesn't have to be extremely painful for you to change. You can learn the lesson without learning the lesson and get the first sign and be like, all right, got it. It's happening for me. Let me do it. Because looking back, every single thing that's caused me pain in my life that was avoidable, there were signs at the beginning that I ignored till you're in it and you're done and you're like, oh shoot, I learned from pain. But we don't have to learn from pain. I believe we can completely avoid it in a way if we're listening to the guidance, and living that way,
Anyways, I was telling you, the magic of these episodes is that sometimes what I'm going through in my personal life, when I have these conversations, you literally said exactly what I needed to hear. And I know that if I'm a human, I am a human, I'm saying, people will resonate with whatever I'm going through as well. So the second question is, what is your formula for instant and lasting transformation?
All right. So for me, I work on the energetic level first, all the time, right? And I surrender. That's a big one. Because sometimes here's the biggest thing, is we're guided to what we want. And the signs that lead us to where we want, like if we follow them, it's the fastest path to get there. We avoid unnecessary pain and suffering. It's the best path. But sometimes it's so noisy in the world out there that we can't differentiate signal, which are the signs, from noise.
Yeah.
That's why people do meditation. Why people do silent retreats. That's why you go in a place to where we live in, there's acres and acres. I can't even see my neighbors. So there's not a lot of noise versus when we lived in Laguna Beach. It was beautiful. We're on beachfront, but it was just so much noise to where it's like, wow, you don't even know what's yours and what's not. Right.
I lived in Huntington Beach for 9 years.
Beautiful. I love it. Beautiful eatery, but there's just so much noise. Whereas here, it's like, I don't even need a shield. It's so clear, very clear and very grounding. Right. So if all people did was be in places or work on themselves enough to where they know the difference between noise and signs, and they follow the signs, they'll be good. I mean, it's the cheat code to life. Follow the signs, you get where you want. Follow your intuitions, you're gonna get it every single time, right? You ignore them, it's gonna be longer, more painful, right? So for me, signs are a big one. Surrender, because sometimes the things that come aren't the ones that you want to do, and you do the opposite of it, brings you pain, only for you to later on do the thing that you were pinged to do, and it brings you what you want, right? Yeah. So a lot of times I know that relationship, and I tried it out thousands of times to know, like, if a sign comes, I'm just following it. I try to fight it because I'm a little bit rebellious growing up. Try to fight it, but every single time I lose. Signs win 100% every single time. And I work on energy because I know energy is the fastest way to get there. I know my vibration. If I want to solve something, I'm not going to solve it on a humanistic level. I'm going to be like, what vibration am I on? And how can I get to another vibration? Right. And as I experience that, life drastically changes in a second. So I know that I got to work on my mind and in my emotions to really be aligned with the new identity and new reality I'm experiencing. Because these two can be the greatest source of pain, even if you have what you want. So I look at it to where, like, sure, energy is going to get me there, but I got to work on these two so that they don't sabotage or counter manifest what I'm experiencing. Because yes, you can't have what you want without having these two align. Like, think about lottery winners, right? They win the lottery. Sometimes they might not have the best mindset and the best emotional, resilience and the energy, but they win it for some reason. But a lot of them are in a worse financial place, 10 years later than they were before winning, because these two were not aligned.
Yeah.
So that just showed me that you can have what you want without these two being aligned. But when you do, or on your way to getting there, you better start working on these so you can maintain what you have and not create the duality of, oh wow, I manifested the money, but car broke down. Here's the bills. I have love, but wow, they're toxic, or they're closed off, or they're emotionally unavailable, or they're hot and cold, right? So you skip duality and just experience, the potency without any dips. So for me, it's energy first, aligning these as you go, and you got to keep it.
That mind and heart coherence. I love it, brother.
Yeah.
Final question. This is, it's going to make us travel 10 to 20 years into the future.
Sure.
And if I were to give you a time capsule, you sort of answered this with your book. But if I were to give you a time capsule and you could put in anything that you wanted for this time capsule, and 10 to 20 years down the line, maybe even less, because the world is changing so fast, that the next generation of leaders will be given this time capsule, and you will be able to give them any tools, whether it's your book, whether it's, different modalities, different audio tracks, whatever you want to include in there. And they would open it, and it would be exactly what they needed to lead forth this new earth that is emerging on the planet right now. What would you put in the time capsule?
Got it. I'll put my book in there for sure.
Of course.
I would tell them to go to a sacred site, right? Because certain things can be intellectualized, but some things have to be felt and experienced. So I'll have them go to a sacred site, like, hey, go to Sedona, go on our land, go to Egypt, go to a sacred site, because they activate, codes deep within your DNA that you might not even know you have. So it raises your vibration. And I would really hone in on the fact that love is very underrated. And I used to laugh at it because I was so cheesy, like a Hallmark card, but it's been one of the most transformative frequencies that I've experienced, because with more love, we can house more light. We can house more energy. We can house more knowledge without imploding. And my wife says love is a lubricant of light, and light is what we want. We want more information. We want more knowledge, more healing, more evolution, but too much of that, people go crazy. It's an imbalance. So the thing that's not as sexy in this space is love frequency. And I feel like it's not the end all be all for humanity, but it sure is the next step, because with more of that, we can experience and house more of our nature, more of our potency, more of our gifts in a balanced, sustainable way. And for me, that was a big part of the big thing that changed everything for me is realizing that love frequency isn't the lovey-dovey things we watch in Hollywood movies and in Hallmark cards. It's greater than that. It is love frequency for the greatest good of all, and it's a specific frequency that when you tap in, a lot of the things that you're searching for, you don't even have to manifest it in a way. You're in a frequency where it finds you, because it's just all available there. So for me, it is Sacred Site. It is my book. It is which goes over spiritual gifts and knowing who they are. And then the love frequency is a big part of it for sure.
I love that. Oliver, thank you so much. This has been an amazing time that we just had together. And I know that we imprinted this with a lot of intention and love. So I really appreciate you. I would love to do this again. Keep following your journey. You're a true light for this world and a powerhouse for the next generations. Thank you for doing what you're doing, brother.
Emilio, thank you so much. Truly honored and grateful.
Thank you.